Some of you may know the story of the Freedom Riders. Erin Gruwell was a high school English teacher working in Long Beach, California. But her students weren't your everyday students. These students were different. Her students never read a book. They didn't know their ABCs. These students were told that at 14 they'd fail and drop out, that at 16 they'd be behind bars, and that by 18 they'd be 6 feet under. And these students hated school, and they hated Erin. Now, Erin could have made every assumption about her students like every other teacher before her. She could have assumed that her students would amount to nothing. Despite the backgrounds of these students, despite the fact that these students bounced around from jail to rehab to foster home, Erin wanted to understand her students. She wanted to be a catalyst for change. So one day, after months of trying to break through to try to understand what's going on in her students' life, she brought in plastic champagne glasses, sparkling apple cider, and journals. And instead of trying to teach the students that day, she invited her students to share, to open up about life outside of school. And in that moment, one brave student stepped forward and began to talk about the hardship that she had been enduring for years. And following her, student after student stepped forward and began to open up about life outside of school, the struggle that they had been going through for years and years and years. And for the first time, Erin began to really understand her students, what they needed, what they were looking for. And she proceeded to hand each student a journal, and she invited them to capture their life story. And mind you, these are students that never did their homework, never submitted. Like, these students hated school. So she gave each one a blank journal and she said, capture your life story. Now, without knowing what would happen, in the months to follow, something beautiful would unfold. Her students began to learn to read and write. But it didn't stop there. They fundraised enough money to take a trip from California to Washington, D.C., where they'd march and share the stories of their loved ones that died to senseless death. Erin proceeded to take those journals, and she compiled them into a book, and she submitted it for publication. And one publishing company took a chance and published that book, and it went on to become the #1 selling book in America at the time, and later a blockbuster hit featuring Hilary Swank. When we let go of assumptions, when we leave them at the door, and we seek to understand our people, not surface level, but deeply understand them, you will unlock your people's greatest potential and ultimately drive limitless engagement and loyalty.